Durge is perhaps the single most underrated Clone Wars era character. Among the Confederacy's most fearsome commanders, Durge was one of several bounty hunters paid by Dooku to serve as a military leader in the conflict. Durge served the Confederacy far more loyally and for far longer than any of these other hunters, however. This is because he actually had a motivation for fighting the Republic besides money. As a matter of fact, Durge joined the Confederate military because he wanted to kill the Republic's clone troopers. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at why.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Durge was born about 2,000 years before the start of the Clone Wars, long before even Yoda. He was a Jedi, a member of an elusive but incredibly unique species that, by and large, kept to itself. Jedi were essentially formless, walking masses of corded muscle and nerve clusters, with their only real distinguishing feature being their heads. They lacked hearts, lungs, and any other vulnerable organs, and they featured highly decentralized circulatory and nervous systems. As Durge himself put it, he was a walking nerve cluster, capable of feeling a human heartbeat from 200 meters away, with near instantaneous reflexes, incredible strength, and insane regenerative capabilities. The nature of their biology meant that Jedi were virtually impossible to kill and difficult to seriously wound. They could regrow lost limbs in minutes and were able to recover from anything short of being hurled into a star, as we'll see later. Fortunately for the galaxy, the Jedi were mostly pacifists. They believed change was an illusion, and their philosophers preached that taking an active role in anything was pointless, if not destructive in itself. This philosophy, which they called the perfection of permanence, meant that the Jedi never involved themselves as a species in galactic affairs, and only a few aberrant members of the species became known to the galaxy, Durge being one of them. Since these outcasts were often uncharacteristically brutal for Jedi, they gave the whole species a bad name that wasn't really all that deserved. There was a dark side to the Jedi, however. If their nervous systems were forced to regenerate too much, as often happened for older members of the species, their mental states would decay. Jedi that regularly got themselves wounded would start to develop psychosis, making them incredibly violent and unpredictable. This eventually happened to most Jedi over time, but it happened much faster for those who were already aggressive. This meant that killers among the Jedi quickly became incredibly unstable, which made them all the more dangerous. Durge was one such Jedi. He was one of the few among his species who was naturally aggressive, and so at an early age, he left his home to become a bounty hunter. Around 1,500 years before the Battle of Yavin, he teamed up with a man named Jang, an ex-Mandalorian trainer that he became good friends with. One day, Durge and Jang were approached by a doctor who promised to cybernetically enhance them, allowing them to become more effective hunters. The two men agreed, and the enhancements were successful. Durge's already formidable Jedi physique was made even more powerful with the cybernetic integration of an armor suit, which served to both aid and protect him in combat. Durge's new cybernetics were quickly put to the test when a band of Mandalorians attacked the Doctor's lab, seeking to steal a Sith artifact the Doctor had in his possession. In the resultant skirmish, Jang was killed. Durge was already mentally unstable from centuries of bounty hunting at that point, and Jang's death pushed him over the edge into psychosis. He killed all the Mandalorians present, vowing he would repay them for Jang's death by killing the reigning Mandalore. At that point in time, the new Sith Wars were in full swing. This was the last of the great clashes between the Jedi Order and their ancient enemies, who at that time were operating under the banner of the new Sith. During the new Sith Wars, the Mandalorians were actually allied with the Jedi. In fact, during the Battle of Maltreve 4, the Mandalorians were actually instrumental in helping the Jedi win the day, saving the Republic in the process. Out of hatred for the Mandalorians, Durge decided to join the war and fight for the Sith. The new Sith were a very incoherent order, more akin to an alliance of small cults than an empire. The fortunes of the various new Sith factions changed rapidly during the war, and as such, Durge didn't develop an allegiance to any of them. He focused less on supporting the Sith and more on fighting their enemies, namely Mandalorians and Jedi. His hatred for Mandalorians only deepened during the 5 centuries he spent fighting for the Sith, and he quickly learned to hate the Jedi too. He became a prolific Jedi hunter, familiar with their techniques and the best ways to kill them. The new Sith Wars ended with a Jedi victory at the 7th Battle of Ruusan, and for fear of reprisals, Durge went into hiding after the war's end. He continued to hunt under false names, earning the ire of the blood boilers of Kragus, among others. He also continued to pursue his vendetta against the Mandalorians. By that point, he had sworn to wipe out the Mandalorians entirely. In 132 BBY, he hunted down and killed the reigning Mandalore, but was subsequently captured by the Mandalorians. They tortured him into insanity, immolated him, and then buried him alive. Durge survived his treatment at the hands of the Mandalorians, but his injuries were so severe that it took him over a century to regenerate fully. He finally clawed his way back out of the ground shortly after the outbreak of the Clone Wars, eager to take his revenge and finally wipe out the Mandalorians. But there was one small problem with that. As far as the galaxy knew, the Mandalorians, or at least the warrior clans, had already been wiped out. Jango Fett, the last of them, had died in the Battle of Geonosis, cheating Durge out of his revenge. By that point, Durge was very, very insane, and upon learning of Fett's death, he became furious too. But once he learned about what was happening in the galaxy at large, he settled on an alternative means of getting revenge on the Mandalorians. Jango Fett may have been dead, but there were millions of clones of him out in the galaxy, fighting for the Republic in the Clone Wars. Durge resolved to kill as many of them as possible. In his own words, Jango Fett was lucky I was taking a nap. Now I'll just have to kill all his spawn. Shortly after his return, Durge met with Count Dooku and accepted a commission as a CIS commander. Despite his insanity, Durge proved incredibly skilled both as a warrior and as a tactician, which led to him becoming one of Dooku's favoured commanders. He often worked alongside Asajj Ventress, whose precise assassin's tactics were a good match for his strength-focused approach to combat. He took to the battlefield with glee, always eager to kill more clones and Jedi, as exemplified by his quip at the start of the Battle of Ohma-D'un. You know, it's been over a century since I've killed a Jedi, and today I get to kill 4 of you. Add that to the Gungans I already murdered, the hostages I'm going to kill later, and all the Naboo who will die tomorrow. It's a damn good week. Durge signed up with the Confederacy to kill clones, and he certainly achieved this. In his first appearance on Ohma-D'un, he killed whole squads of them, not to mention the entire colony's worth of Gungans he had slaughtered beforehand. He took out his fair share of Jedi too. In a subsequent clash with a Jedi strike team of Kueta, he killed Nol Venari and John Antilles, legendary nomadic Jedi who are among the greatest warriors of the Order. Perhaps Durge's most well-known appearance was during the Battle of Munilinst. Dooku sent Durge to the planet in the event that the battle turned against the Confederacy, and when it did, Durge led a battalion of Lancer droids out from the command center in a massive counterattack. He and his droids cut a bloody swath through the advancing clone army, destroying the Republic's artillery and potentially killing thousands of clones. Durge's counterattack was only stopped by General Kenobi and the Lancer Battalion, who defeated Durge's droids and eventually Durge himself. Dooku deployed Durge on more covert missions too. After Munilinst, he and Asajj Ventress were sent on a mission to Trenchant Space Station. Unbeknownst to them, it was a test to see whether General Grievous was skilled enough to become the CIS Supreme Commander. Grievous passed the test, beating both Durge and Ventress so badly that they required time and back-to-tanks to recover. Durge was also responsible for orchestrating a prison riot as a bid to lure in Jedi, whom he then killed. Durge's battlefield career is mostly unknown. After the Battle of Munilinst, he wasn't involved in any recorded battles, despite it being established that he was active on the front lines for over 2 years afterwards. He was apparently very capable as a commander, so much so that, by the time of the Outer Rim sieges, he was second to only General Grievous himself in terms of the Confederacy's leading officers. Asajj Ventress continued to fight alongside him during this period. It's presumed he killed more than his fair share of clones during this time, and he likely led his armies from the front to allow him to rack up the kills more easily. Contrary to what you might expect, he had nothing to do with Operation Durge's Lance, General Grievous's assault on the core worlds. Durge was finally defeated shortly before the start of the Outer Rim sieges, during a skirmish above Karthak. His mission there was simple. He was to lure Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker into a trap and kill them. Unfortunately for him, one didn't simply kill those legendary Republic heroes, and the Jedi got the upper hand in the ensuing battle. Earlier in the war, Durge might have had more of a chance, but by late 20 BBY, his cognitive state had deteriorated significantly due to repeated injury, and it was beginning to affect his performance. Anakin Skywalker was ultimately able to cripple Durge with explosives, hurl him into an escape pod with the Force, and launch the pod into the nearest star. Durge, the Confederacy's unkillable commander, was vaporized by the ensuing collision and finally died. So, that's the story of Durge, the bounty hunter that joined the CIS to kill clones. But what do you think? Would you like to hear more about this madman and his exploits? Let us know in the comments section below. And just before you go guys, if you want to hear some of the music we used in this video and in a lot of the recent videos we posted on the channel, make sure you check out our Relax Jack music channel, link in the description below. And if you just want to join our wider Geetsly's community, make sure you check us out on our central Discord server where you can chat to myself and other Star Wars fans, and our Geetsly's gaming network where you can play Gary's mod with other Star Wars fans. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.